Hello, everybody. Welcome to the DNA Show with your weekly movie review. And you saw the thumbnail. It is the holiday season. It's the holiday season. So we went and saw a new holiday movie that came out last night, Red One, with Dwayne The Rock Johnson, Chris Evans, J.K. Simmons. Man, they're just pulling in all the superheroes. Well, I guess The Rock has. Oh no, The Rock. Yeah, Black Adam. We got
Yep.
Black Adam. We got Commissioner Gordon. We got Captain America, and we got Lucy Liu, who I must say uh, has got to be either our age or a little older,
She
and
is.
is
She's 1 year older than us.
looking great still.
She
I really
is.
liked her haircut in the movie as well.
And I would have said J. Jonah Jameson.
And Jay, I was going to say he's a double threat. He's also J. Jonah Jameson.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but yeah, so we saw Red One. Dennis, what is Red One about? Tell the audience.
Well, this Christmas spirited movie is all about Santa Claus, played by J.K. Simmons, whose code name is Red One. He gets kidnapped, and the North Pole's head of security, played by Dwayne Johnson, who plays the character Callum, must team up with the world's most infamous bounty hunter, Merc for Hire, as you would say, played by Chris Evans, who plays Jack O'Malley. And this is a globe-trotting, action-packed mission in order to save Christmas.
That's right. It starts off with a little Jack O'Malley when he's a little kid, about 10 years old or so. And he basically, it already sets up, he's a skeptical type of fellow. And we don't want to spoil too much. He's a skeptical type of kid. So they kind of introduce him as a little kid. Then, of course, they bounce forward, 30 years, whatever. And before they show like the title and stuff, they set him up more as an adult where he is having to track down some software, because like Dennis said, he gets hired for these odd jobs. He can find anything, find anybody. He's not that great of a person, stealing a lollipop from a baby in a stroller. Just crazy. I will say, when I saw the actor that played little Chris Evans, my first thought was, that's how Dennis looked as a kid.
And you know what? It kind of did. And the only difference is I actually caught Santa Claus. So just saying, that would have been me as a youngster right there. Very skeptical. And yeah, it was kind of funny. You said that in the theater, and I just started chuckling because I'm like, yep, that was me.
I'm just like, my God, look at that. I just saw little Dennis. So there you go. This movie, I in my opinion, obviously, I think it didn't know who it was trying to target. And what I mean by that is it's action, there's comedy in it. Think of like the Marvel formula of superhero movies. But I was like, okay, there's aspects of this movie I'm like, oh yeah, 7, 8-year-old kids would enjoy it. But then there's aspects of it, I thought at least, where I'm like, 7, 8-year-old kid, is that a little too much? And I was thinking more in the scenes, and you see this in the trailer when they visit and they meet Krampus, who in this movie is Kris Kringle's brother. And it was those scenes, and I thought the makeup effects were great. They looked like they were all not CGI, so all traditional makeup. But I was like, man, some of the makeup on these dudes, in Krampus's town were a little intense, I thought. So I don't know if they targeted who they wanted to good. And then real quick before you jump in, they set up the North Pole, and I leaned over to Dennis and also said this, and I was like, Wakanda. Because when they fly to the North Pole, they get to this area, and to the naked eye, it just looks like, Antarctica, wherever it is, cold, mountainy, whatever. And then, this shield like opens up and you see this huge, I mean, if you've seen Black Panther,
Yes.
that's how big the city is in the North Pole, and that is how advanced it is with technology as well. And I just want to get this out. I don't know about you, but I thought for the North Pole, it was a little over the top.
Okay, so let's start with your first point because we never talk about this stuff when we leave. We air this out fresh when we do the recordings. But my wife and I talked about this on the way home last night. We were like, you know, who was this movie targeted for? I was expecting this to be hopefully like Jingle All the Way, a cute Christmas movie, things like that. That was my hope expectations, but it wasn't. It had some cute things. It had a fun little premise to it. And there were parts that were targeted, like you said, for the younger kids. And then there's a bunch of swearing. And then there's, some really scary shit for kids in it. And I'm just like, okay. So I agree. It did not know who to target in this. It was just a shotgun blast with birdshot against the wall. Hopefully something stick. And it didn't. What was the second point you made?
North Pole.
Oh, yeah.
It was, I mean, it was like the size of freaking Manhattan, it looked like.
Dude, you said Wakanda, and it was so funny because I was going, Wakanda.
Yeah.
Sitting there, and even Susie was laughing, and I'm like, wow. And okay, so the story itself, this was the most bland, boring. It had its moments of cuteness. There was some giggling through the audience, but I also pay attention to the audience's reaction. There were only 2 people in the audience that laughed relatively repeatedly. Very few other people did. It had its moments of cuteness and charm. There were things that were good about it, but the story itself, it was so boring. It was bland. I really felt like this was an AI generated movie. Somebody sat at the computer, churned out and told AI, create this movie that encompasses all the generic tropes of Christmas from all the different action type Christmas movies. And there we go. And then these were bland characters, and I like all the casting. I like all the actors, but wow, they just did nothing. Dwayne Johnson played Dwayne Johnson. Chris Evans looked kind of bored with his role, and okay. Lucy Liu, I adore Lucy Liu. She was very vanilla in this. J.K. Simmons was probably, pretty decent as Santa Claus, but I mean, there's not a lot to do. Christopher Hivju was great. He was my favorite playing Krampus, and he was stuck behind all the makeup, but he looked good, and I enjoyed his character.
Now, I'm sorry, who was that? Who was the actor that played Krampus?
Christopher Hivju. He's my favorite wildling from Game of Thrones. Second favorite, actually.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, loved him. I love him as an actor. And then the villain, the thing that everything hinges around, Kierna Shipka. I adored her. We just seen her in a few movies over the last. She was in Twisters. We enjoyed that. She was in Longlegs. We enjoyed that. As a villain, this was a yawn fest. She was terrible. And again, I don't know why.
That's the thing. It's like, so while I'm going on my little spiel, do me a favor. So The Rock was a co-producer. I think his ex-wife was as well.
Oh, okay.
And so maybe you could see if I'm right on that. And this to me felt like with The Rock being a producer on it, Dwayne Johnson, it felt like him going, I want to make a holiday movie, but I want to make it like a superhero movie, and he, obviously his character, he's over 500 years old because he's been with Santa for so long. He's strong, besides the costume, it's, he's like a superhero. The snowmen that they fight that you see in the trailer are big buff snowmen, which in the trailer I didn't have a problem with. I'm like, okay, that's cool.
What's his
Krampus.
wife's name?
You just have to look.
Dude, there's a dozen producers, and
No, good. Just I would Google just Dwayne Johnson, and then it'll show like current wife and then former wife, and you know what I mean. Anyhow, um, so it felt like he wanted to do a superhero movie and tie it in with Christmas, which I don't have a problem with. But like Dennis said, I don't think Dwayne Johnson and Chris Evans had a lot of chemistry. Did you?
no.
And like you said, it's 2 hours long, and it felt long.
Yep,
You
it's
know,
his ex-wife.
it is his ex-wife. Yeah.
Yep.
So, and I think the name of there's so, remember the days in movies, they'd start out and they'd show produced by, and it'd be like, MGM or whatever. Now it's like multiple production companies. And I think one of them, the $7 production company, if I'm not mistaken, I think that's Dwayne Johnson's, the name of his production company. And the only reason, and it's not worth looking up. The reason that sticks out to me is because I think I remember a personal story where he said at one point in his life before he really hit big, before wrestling and all that, he was down to like $7. Anyhow, doesn't matter. Point is,
Wow, tangent.
yeah, Lucy Liu, her character had not a significant role. J.K. Simmons as Santa, not a significant role. It was, basically Chris Evans and Dwayne Johnson. I didn't really think they had great chemistry. The biggest thing, it's funny, is when I first saw Chris Evans on screen, and it's not that he hasn't done stuff since playing Captain America, because he has, but this is probably one of the bigger things he's done since then. And my first thought was, man, back to normal size Chris Evans. He was like, I'm done playing Cap. Great. Don't have to work my ass off in the gym, which I get it. It's a lot of work, but it was just interesting.
Nick Kroll was a really fun
Yeah.
addition. He was like a cameo in it, who played Ted. And I loved him my wife and I, as soon as we saw him, we're like,
Oh, he's great.
The league. So whenever he's in, he's always a small bit part, but it's always good. And, he filled it in there. But like I said, story, characters, everything about this was boring and bland. This was a huge disappointment to me.
Well, and like you said, the villain, I like her as an actress. And this has nothing to do with the fact that the villain was a woman. I don't care. There's lots of great female villains out there. I think in Fast and Furious, wasn't it Charlize Theron that played a villain for a while?
Well, yeah, it has nothing to do with that.
No,
she was awful.
She was just, she wasn't a strong villain. And then even her motivation for what she wanted to do, I was like, are you a villain? I mean, you are, because basically, not going into super details, but basically she wanted to get rid of all the people on the naughty list, right? In the world. And then the world would be a happier place. And I'm like, well, I mean,
but based on it's on her definition of it, which would encompass most of the world.
Well, even Dwayne Johnson, when he broke down the naughty list to Chris Evans and what goes on it, you're like, well, there's nobody in the world that's good then. Because I mean, Dwayne Johnson, one of the reasons is lying. And he didn't break it down like, well, we're not talking little white lies like, did you eat that candy bar? And you say no. Jaywalking, right? Yeah. So everybody, there'd be nobody left. So even with that being said, her taking out the whole world, basically, you're still like,
Well, I was to say her character's name's Grilla, and her motivation was weak, her execution was weak, everything about it, even when she uses her abilities and stuff, it's just weakly done. And again, I'm not blaming her. I am
No.
saying everything was written so badly. Everything. My wife got it in the car when we were talking on the way back, and she goes, was this an AI movie? And I was like, exactly my thoughts. We were talking about that on the way home. There was no anything to this. I really, on a movie like this, I would be taking my niece, my nephew, and my daughter would have probably went with us. But honestly, I have no desire to even go back and see this, even with them. It was just sadly boring and meh as heck.
Yeah. Oh, so here you go. So, correct me if I'm wrong, but The Rock's ex-wife is Haram Garcia, right?
Yeah,
Guess
Danny.
what? She's one of the writers.
Danny Garcia.
Yeah, I know, but I'm looking right. But
That's his ex-wife.
well, I would imagine there's some tie-in with Haram Garcia, but maybe
Yeah,
not.
I have no idea. I
Well,
have
point
no idea.
is, oh no, never mind. Haram Garcia is a guy. I take it back.
I bet that's her husband.
Oh,
Current.
right.
But
He's the,
what do you think the budget of this movie was? That was the one thing I had to look up before we came on.
hold on. Give me 1 second. I'll answer because I just want to know this. So you're probably right. It doesn't say
Rabbit
if
hole.
that's, yep. No. Oh my God. Talk about inbred in the film. Haram Garcia is the brother of Danny Garcia.
There it is. All right.
And
So
he's
it's a
the
Nepo film.
co-writer. He's the co-writer and the president of $7 Production, which I'm sure ties into Dwayne Johnson. Anyhow, what is the budget you're asking me?
Yeah, what do you think the budget was?
Man, you know what? It's a trick question, and I say that because it's either going to be ridiculously kind of low,
So
or
find
it's
out.
going to be,
Take
or
a
it's going to
guess.
be so high that you're like, you got to be kidding me. So I'll say 150 million.
So my guess was based on I figured it was $100 million film based on the characters, the practical effects, like you were saying, was good. The CG was terrible. The green screen stuff was terrible, and I was like, oh. So I'm like, yeah, most of the money must have went to the characters. No. We would both be wrong. This was a $250 million blockbuster. And
Whoa.
it ain't no blockbuster at all. Seriously, why would you guys think this was a $250 million movie?
Because, dude, I'm telling you, there's so much. It's like the bureaucracy. There's so much bullshit in there where it's like, oh, we need catering. How much is catering? And I'm just making a number up. Catering's $5 million, and whoever got paid that is like, he. We took them when it's like, no, catering should be not even over 100,000, I would think. But you know what I mean. So
Yeah,
anyhow, uh,
let's rate this thing.
yeah,
I'm
I was
ready
going to
to
say, let's
talking
rate
about
it
it.
and move on. It's going to, I think it might have a good opening weekend because of the characters and the trailer. But if it does have a good opening, I predict the second weekend it's going to just have a
Yep,
75% drop.
you're
It's
up
your turn to
first.
go first, though. So,
Oh, is it? All
yeah.
right. I am giving this a 4.0.
Okay.
It had a few good moments, but I was so let down with the potential. The trailer looked good, but there was nothing great. I will sit down and watch my Die Hard to open up the Christmas season, and then follow it up with Elf and all these other really good Christmas movies. This will never make it to my list. I will never own it.
There you go. I'm a little higher than you, but just by a point. I'm going a 5-0, just right down the middle. Um, so, it was just, yeah, it had its moments, but there were more times than not where I thought it was slow and kind of boring. And like Dennis said in the beginning, is this an AI written movie? I mean, it's just, it's really formulaic. And it's not that
Yeah.
you can't do formulaic good, because you can. We've all seen it, but you can also do it bad.
It is
And
PG-13,
yeah,
and I really think that if it was written for anybody, it was more for the kids, because those were the couple of people I heard laughing, and there were a number of kids, in the theater. Let's just pull up IMDb has a rating, and it is a 7.0. So the IMDb is very rarely is it higher than us, but it is today. And Rotten Tomatoes update is 34% on the tomato meter. So,
wow.
wow, kind of all over on this one. There is no popcorn meter. They do not have enough. Well, technically, they do have enough, but Rotten Tomatoes is not showing it, even though they do have over 100 verified, which is what they need. So, for some reason, they are not releasing it, which means it's lower than what they wanted, and that is Rotten Tomatoes' way of keeping it.
Wow, they are IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes sucking up to the rock. So,
Yeah.
all right,
So,
Dennis, give your shout out.
oh yeah, and I was gonna say thanks everybody. Hit 875,000 views. We hit it this week, so it's always great that you guys are tuning in for all the different types of content that we do. And I'll be popping up the quick flips of the new books later today, so go check that out. And I will say, my wife gave it a 5.0 as well as soon as we walked out of the theater.
Yes, she
She
did.
loves to give us her opinion now.
She did, and didn't affect mine at all. I already had my mind made up when we stood up. Oh, and there's nothing afterward, credit wise, so you
Yeah.
can leave. If
Yeah.
you want to waste your money, I wouldn't. If it's on Netflix, maybe watch it. But you know what you should do? You should head on over to Kor-Drath, The Awakening on Indiegogo, link in the description below, and check out Dennis and my's 64-page epic saga. Kor-Drath and Adriana are back to fight to save the Shattered Reach from Vordum the Undying. If you like Conan, Game of Thrones, and Dungeons and Dragons, fantasy, mystical stuff, you'll love this book. Something for everyone. The catch-up tier. So if you missed Kor-Drath the Reckoning, you can get it with a brand new Budroot cover. The new game module that Dennis wrote is available for role players out there. It's based on 5th edition rules. It's in the same format as the great Dungeons and Dragons stuff that y'all enjoy. Digital editions are available. A brand new Budroot poster featuring his new Adriana cover and his Lilith cover from the first book in one nice image. And of course, all the different covers to choose from. Take your pick. It's like Burger King. Have it your way. Grab a t-shirt, the original Kor-Drath shirt. And Adriana has a new shirt as well by Budroot. So check all that out, guys. And watch the trailer down below. And we do have Irene Strakowski's variant cover too. So go check it out, guys. We appreciate all your support. 762 backers, closing in on $55,000. Let's go. Let's get to the next stretch goal at 60,000, which will be, show you real quick. Scrolling. Will be the mini print of Bart Sears and Dan Lawless's cover 2, the role-playing game module. And of course, the first stretch goal of the Vordum playable character card is already unlocked. So everybody gets all these. The more backers, the more stuff we can add to the campaign. Go check that out. Next Wednesday on the DNA show at 3 p.m., we have guests Mike Barron and Richard Bonk to talk about their new project featuring Sherlock Holmes. It looks like a winner. Mike always does great stuff. Rich is a fantastic artist. So join us for that. And next week, we have an idea what we're seeing, but we're going to keep it mum for now. Mum's the word. So
That's
until
right.
then, everybody have a great weekend. Be safe, be kind, like,
Good
subscribe,
morning,
and share.